Hello, everyone watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify. It's another episode of NRG Insights, where we speak to people across the mortgage market, whether that be lending, broking, or partners within the mortgage industry. Just in regards to the market, anyone who's got anything interesting to say, basically, we'll have them on and have a chat. In that regard, we've got Gemma Perry today from Acumen Mortgages. Thanks for joining me, Gemma.
Hi, Marcus. No problem. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So talk to me about we'll go into the business a little bit more, but talk to me about you and your financial services journey to how you've got to operations director at Acumen.
Yeah, of course. So I didn't do university. So I left school, did 6 months at university, realised that I probably didn't really know what I wanted to do, if I'm honest, and it seemed like a bit of a waste of money. And I went travelling and disappeared for 2 years. And when I came back, it was 2007, 2008. And we just, obviously, we were just going through horrendous, the crash and everything. And I came back from travelling with no degree, trying to get a job. So I went and applied everywhere and did all the usual stuff, and ended up in a position where I was going to go on to benefits and didn't really have a lot of choice in that because there was no jobs. Now my dad's actually a financial advisor, and he, I think, broke every rule he'd ever set himself and turned around to me and went, "Do you know what? I can see how hard you've tried. 6 months, you can come and work with me, get your exams, and then, you know, you're not staying here, but you can start here."
Do you know what? I'd be quite looking forward to my kids working with me. I always say, like, if they failed absolutely everything and they run out of ideas, and there's always recruitment, they can jump on. Sorry.
He absolutely is probably telling me a massive fib, but he says he actually really enjoyed it, and it was one of the good things that he did.
Oh, good.
So that was in Stoke. And again, it was all kind of really it's a bit like now, isn't it? It was all very to do with the politics and the economy and all that stuff, sort of thing at the time. So I fell into this, did my exams to become a mortgage advisor, went through, and then just didn't want to stay in Stoke because, you know, at the time we had the BNP rising, and it just wasn't a nice place to be, and there was a lot of massive unemployment in Stoke. It was hit really, really hard, you know, really economically hard, with the potteries, the factories closing down and things. So I moved to Manchester with a friend, and started off in a wealth firm doing power planning and all that sort of stuff. Realised that particular company wasn't for me. It was probably well, it's not going anymore, let's say that. And then moved over into a estate agency, just really to try and get a foot in the door, because obviously I had my exams, didn't have any experience. Worked for an estate agent for a few years, and it was the best thing I did, because it gave me such a good grounding in the industry, and that hunger and that sales and that having to constantly chase and push.
So were you a broker within the estate agents, or were you actually being an agent in the agency?
I started off as an estate agent, actually selling houses, and then once I got my foot in with the company, they said to me, "Right, we know you've got your exams. Actually, we think we'd be willing to train you up in house." So went on and became a broker from there, and then got headhunted over to Acumen. Actually, I had a friend who worked there, and they were looking for a manager, and she thought I was bossy enough to have some influence. So
did you have any management experience from your agency, or was that your first step into management?
No, it was terrifying. So I went into Acumen are a really brilliant firm to work for, Marcus, and one of their biggest traits is, so there's two things about them. One is they've never ever made anyone redundant in terms of advisors. They've never made an advisor redundant in 30 years, because we only ever recruit if we need to, and we're very confident in our business model. But the other thing is, because it's such a nice place to work, actually we have really, really high staff retention. So I was walking in as a 29, 30-year-old with no management experience at all. Just they'd seen something in me, to a team that had been there for 10, 15 years. And they were all a lot older, and they all knew.
That's a tough gig, right?
It's so hard.
That's the tougher to walk in somewhere where there's no actual problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was no middle management in place at the time. So it went straight from the owner of the company down to the advisors, and to walk in and then say, "Hi, I know you've been doing this a lot longer than me, but can I just ask why we're doing that? And actually, can we change that? And actually, I think we might be able to do that better." Awful.
Yeah.
Awful, but such a big learning curve.
But do you think that's a really good thing? That's a big thing for your bosses as well, right? To be able to go, look, bring someone in, fresh eyes on the business. I think that's because it's too easy to be set in your ways and go like, "This is good. This has worked for 24 years. Why can't we just carry on like that with no middle management?" At least that they're open enough to realise that fresh eyes on it. That's quite, it's a brave decision, isn't it? Because you do upset the apple cart no matter what happens in management. People are resistant to change, right?
100%, 100%. And I think as well, being directly authorised, whereas if you're in a corporate, you're sort of forced to move because you've got a bigger picture and there's sort of, a lot of structure in place there. With a directly authorised firm, we don't have that. So actually some of the things they've been doing, they were still doing because they've done for the last 25 years, 24 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't until somebody went, I don't understand, that they were like, oh, actually, no, you're right, we shouldn't do that. And so, yeah, it was a lot of change, I think.
Do you know, that's a generally good bit of advice for any kind of business, is just to look at it and go, why do we do that? Look at it with a bit like child's eyes.
Absolutely.
My kids see our business, obviously, internally because they're around it. And they always say stuff like that. Like, what do you do that for? I'm like, and if you ever hear myself say, because we've always done it like that, I know it's not right.
100%. And I think for us as well, that's a really big benefit of being part of something like IPFA, which I think Jamie mentioned, didn't he, last week when he was on?
We're going to touch on it I think that's an interesting...
Oh, nice. So, yeah, because we're all directly authorised firms, actually having that sounding board and having us all there to talk about each other and say, how far are you going with this? What are you doing? How are you solving that problem? With outside eyes and different parts of the industry and all that is so useful. It's completely invaluable to have that as a support network around you for your BA, I think.
I think it's massive. I think that's the same as anything, right? I think we're too insular, not just this business, any business. We're too insular, we're too my leads, my business, none of your business, but actually we can learn so much from each other if we just get a little bit of collaboration, and there's shed loads of business to go around, right? We're not all fighting for the same lead.
Yeah. And that's
so how have you found that then? How have you found collaborating with others? Sorry, go on.
No, how have I found collaboration? I think initially, I think when I first joined, IPFA wasn't called IPFA, it was called Diamond Club. And if I'm honest with you, Marcus, it was just a lads'
It was a bit of boys' club.
It was just once a quarter, let's go out and get on it. And I think it's...
And do you know what? We've got enough of those in financial services. We've got plenty of those. We don't need any more.
No, and I think it's such a credit to Alex Beavis and Steph Sharman as to what they've done and how far they've managed to get it from where it was to where it is now in such a short space of time. And actually, you like going because you're adding value, and the people who are going now and who are attending the meetings, they're not the people who are just there actually because they want a free meal and a few drinks. It's people who genuinely care, and actually it's not just the collaboration and the learning the different bits and pieces. The big thing about it, really, if I'm honest, is the fact there's so many similarities, and if we all push in the same direction, we can achieve so much more. So, for example, one of the things that as a group we're quite really passionate about is financial education in schools and colleges, and actually growing that and actually getting those people knowing about the industry earlier, recruiting into the industry, because obviously we're going to have a massive recruitment issue in the next 5-10 years because nobody wants to be a mortgage advisor at the moment. But also...
There'll be there's a massive skills gap by 2025.
100%.
As soon as the market comes back,
Yeah, so it's how do we do that? And also, how do we teach kids that actually don't put your delivery on Klarna? How do we teach them actually the importance of saving and the value of that, and what does the CCJ mean, and all those silly mistakes we see so many first-time buyers in particular making? If we can teach them at school that they don't need to make those, and actually don't go and miss a payment on XYZ, then hopefully we can help people get onto the ladder in a much better way, and that benefits all of us, whether they're buying new build or second hand or in London or wherever. All of our companies are going to benefit.
It's true. It's that first-time buyer education that props up the market, right? The more of those that start in the market, that's how the market gets better. Especially for you guys. I mean, obviously, we'll go through what you do as a business, but your new build, right? That's your speciality. It has been for decades. So you need these guys on the market, don't you? You need the market to move.
Absolutely. And we're at the forefront. So what generally tends to happen is the new build market slows and picks up faster than the second-hand market. So we tend to be the people who are always there at the start of the market. So COVID, we were hit the hardest, but then we were the first back open and things like that. And so first-time buyers, actually, a lot of them now, particularly because they're more green conscious, they're more aware of the impact of their housing, they're looking into sustainability, they want the new technologies and things in their homes. Actually, those people are probably going to more and more start their journey with us as a new build provider before they continue their housing journey to buying second-hand stock, when they can afford to probably renovate and refurb up to the standard they would want. is my
Yeah.
suggestion.
So, I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, I think it's the most important part of the market. Whether we work in the high net worth market and lots in between, but actually, the first time buyer, the new build, that kind of thing is the barometer, isn't it, of how we're gonna get on.
Yeah, definitely.
So how do you see it? How do you see it coming? Obviously, new build, like you say, gets hit hard when it gets hit, and then it bounces back when you're kind of the first. How do you see the market changing at the moment? How's it? Or have you got through the kind of the challenges recently?
So challenges recently has been an interesting one. I think,
especially, by the way, sorry, I keep jumping in, but especially because you've made no redundancies, so that's really impressive. Because the easiest way to fix the balance sheet, unfortunately, is to save on salary. And I actually think, but if you work out how much people spend on rehiring, retraining, paying me, all the things that cost, if you can hang on for those few tricky months, it's you guys would have saved a fortune in the rehiring process. It's massive, and also retention, because no one gets up to speed in 6 months, right? Everyone takes 12 months, so you're 18 months in front of someone because you kept someone.
And they're hungrier for it because of that, because they see that you aren't hiring on a whim and you're not getting rid of on a whim and things like that. Actually, you earn a level of respect, I think, and trust. And that enables people to really come to work and be comfortable, so they perform at their best. Because if they actually feel they're safe in a job and it doesn't matter what's going to happen, we're going to do our very, very best to get you through that, then you're more able to focus on the important things, aren't you? Like actual leads and writing business, instead of sort of having a quick look on Indeed or whatever it may be to sort of make sure you've got all your options covered. So, for us...
So you mentioned then about getting...
Go on.
Sorry, there's a slight delay, so I keep jumping in when I think you stopped. Apologies. But... you mentioned then about getting the best out of people. So obviously that retention piece is massive. What else are you doing? What else are you? Because new build, right? You feel like it's kind of a bit of a machine where the builder builds it, you flog it. I'm assuming there's no fees involved in that side of things, so it's just about getting it through. So how do you push people when it has been tough? How do you get the best out of everyone?
So we work really differently from any other new build firm that I'm aware of. I'm sure we're not the only one, but from the ones that I know that are our competitors, if you like. So we actually don't have like a call centre model or anything like that. We don't think that works. For us, our slogan is that mortgages made personal, and that's really, really true. So when people come and work for us, we actually give them a certain number of sites, and that's not based on their individual needs, how much money they want to make and what hours they want to work and all that kind of stuff. But so they are responsible for those sites and those clients, because the builders are our client. And that's the big trick with new build, is that actually we've got our clients, but also we've got our builders who are also our clients.
Too, yeah.
Important. We're managing both ends of it.
I like a new build as close to recruitment as you can get, where you've got to please two people at once.
Yeah.
So you haven't just got that one. It's that customer journey is very, very different from a normal house, because actually your contract, you cock up one deal, you can lose a deal, don't you? You cock up a contractor, you lose a shitload. It's a tough. It's a tough one.
Yeah. And it's a really small industry, so it's very much on reputation, like entirely on reputation. Yeah. And there's always winners and losers. So unfortunately, a few firms that did make a lot of redundancies last year, we're now getting phone calls because their service is dropping. So, there's winners and losers in every situation. I think that's also part of it. I think
But that again, that's something to do with they fixed their balance sheet very short term. That is the issue, isn't it? I think with the quick redundancies and that kind of thing. And I do get that. It's hard running a business when it's tough.
Yeah. No, that's what I would say. But so just to go back to how we,
because you don't make redundancies.
So in terms of motivation, I think they have their sites, they have those relationships, and actually it's part of their job, we think, is to go out and build those relationships. Because if they've got 3 cards on their desk, 3 different brokers, you're going to go for the one that you like the best. That's human nature, isn't it? You're going to be saying, actually, you can choose these 3. Oh, which one do you think? Well, actually, I quite like this one. I like Kieran. He's always been really nice, and he always pops in with my favourite coffee. He remembers my order. It's those little tricks, isn't it, and stuff. So I think that's how we keep them motivated. We kept them going out to site. We kept trying to win new business. We weren't saying sites were selling 10 houses a week, but we were just consistent, and we were realistic with their expectations. And then we helped enable and gave them the tools to actually try and lead generate themselves. So we've really focused on internet marketing. We've put a lot of money into PPC this year, really tried to grow our profile. And we encouraged them to do that same and gave them that autonomy to do that.
So how do they grow their profile in the new build market? Because obviously, like you say, it's quite niche. They can't go out to new contractors. I suppose it's just about building on what you've already got, is it? Making sure that they are the first thing they think about when they think about mortgages.
100%. And it's also about people moving around. So we've had a lot of, again, winners and losers, luckily for us, we've had a lot of sales directors and sales managers who think a lot of us, moving around throughout the industry for the past few months. And even site girls. Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? You can never be sort of too proud in this industry. So just because someone's a site girl now, you don't know they're not going to be an MD in 2 years, 3 years time, 4 years time.
Yeah. So be nice to everyone.
Be nice to everyone, and that's what, honestly, that's the key. We have somebody who might leave developer A and they'll go to developer B, and actually we'll get a phone call going, I really don't like the broker they're telling me to use, can I use you? And we're like, yeah, fine, and then you build it from there. So there's a lot of that.
But that comes from, that's like sales 101, isn't it? It's the looking after people when you can't make money out of them. I had this, I'm not going to, obviously I won't mention any names, but there's a few trade shows recently, and I've had the conversation about other recruiters when they say, if you can't help them now, they literally will just ignore you. And I think it's so short-sighted. Like I go to every event. I've never asked anyone for business. I just think, like you said, Dan, it's being in front of people, isn't it? If you don't have to ask for business, if you speak to people enough, you're not a knobhead, and then they go, do you know what? When I need someone, I'll speak to you. It's like, it's really easy, but I think it's safe to say a lot of people have lost that because of the transactional nature of needing to make money. So it's good that you're installing that in your guys as well.
I don't think it ever will in new build. I think new build is always going to be probably the most relationship-based business, because it's all about, June, for example, obviously, we're recording this at the end of June. This week is my busiest week of the year because it's most builders' year end this week. So we're chatting now, but I will be running off straight after this to get back onto lenders. Relationships with the builders. The builders have to trust me implicitly. They have to know that if I say to them I'm working on it and I'm trying my best, they know I'm working on it and I'm trying my best. But also, the other side of that is the relationship with the lenders. Actually, I need to have really good relationships with all of the main, lenders, so that I can ring them and say, please, will you prioritise me? I really need your help right now. And I've got 2 mortgage offers left to get for tomorrow. And I 100% believe that the lenders are not going to let me down, and I'm going to be
getting there.
Yeah.
So. I'll send them this if they don't. Just say, we actually talked about you.
I'll name and shame.
But it is super important. And funnily enough, it does seem like I harp on about the same thing with podcasts, but I speak to really successful people on here, and everyone says the same thing. It's about relationships. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It's about just keeping everyone sweet. Like, I always speak to guys who go, it's going to sound disparaging, these guys, people aren't clients because we only work with the best people, but you speak to people who go, the BDMs won't pick up the phones to me, and I think, because they don't like you. Like, it's not because all your deals aren't good enough. Like, I speak to good brokers, they don't have problems getting hold of their BDMs. If you're good at your job and you say what you're actually going to do, and you're not a pain in the arse, then they are going to pick up the phone to you. They are going to help you out.
Yeah, I think it very much does depend though on, it's like everything. Sorry, I'm literally just popping my phone on silent. I think it's like everything. I think that there's good BDMs and bad BDMs. So unfortunately, I can think of one bank in particular that at the moment we won't use because the BDM and the person above the BDM are so bad at their jobs. We can't trust them. We cannot trust them.
Who is it?
I'm not telling you.
I'm joking.
We're not using them.
Tell me off air. Yeah, but it's true though. And do you know what? I think BDMs we all sort of take the piss, right? Because I place BDMs, and we all have a joke that they're very well paid and they go out and they drop criteria. A good BDM is worth an absolute fortune because
100%.
They're the front line, aren't they? Like you said, there's a bank losing business because one person can't do their job. It's shocking. But yeah, they'll scrimp on it, or they won't look at it, and they don't consider it like a true. They're the front end of any bank or lender. It's huge.
Oh, absolutely. Do you know, actually, if I am going to name drop them, I would do it in a positive way, and I would say the two banks and building societies at the moment who have been phenomenal in terms of the changes to criteria, listening to broker feedback, and actually actioning things. And I'm not saying they're perfect, but right now, I've probably changed my mind next week, but Skipton and Barclays are pulling out of the bag at the moment. They're brilliant. You know, both
Yeah.
of them have really.
I've had
set
loads of positivity about Skipton recently, just about getting stuff over the line.
Yeah, and they're such a lovely, from an outsider's point of view, they seem such a lovely team. It feels like everyone's working together and they all actually care and know about your cases, and it's nice to have that. And again, it's that relationship. You know, they're a massive company.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that actually, maybe one person actually knows about my cases, but they always give me the impression that they're all working on it together and they're all pushing it through, and that's really good.
Yeah. That's good, though, isn't it? That's you're their client, so perception is reality. If you
100%.
if you think that everyone feels like that, then that's the case. I mean, I don't say they're my favourite in November when my fixed rate comes up. Personally, I'll have to see what special deals they've got. But we won't talk about the base rate, but it looks like hopefully they'll be better than they are at the moment.
Oh, I think it will.
So, just in regard, go on. What do you think is going to happen? What's the drop down a little bit?
Yeah, I've been telling everyone that I think we'll probably see a cut in August, and then I think last economy update I heard was that they reckon then it'll probably drop a little bit quicker in 2025. This was actually Barclays last week. Probably settling around somewhere between 3.25 and 4 probably by quarter 3 next year.
Although what I would say is just be careful which economists you listen to. I went to a seminar recently and there was 4 economists on stage. They all said completely different things. I said, well, one of you is going to be right. You can't. You must all be using the same data, surely. Where are they getting the information from? But they all are in the same boat that it's more positive than it is now.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I don't.
Do you feel like? Sorry.
No, go on.
No, sorry, I interrupted again. I was going to say, obviously the election coming up, and we try and avoid politics as much as we can on here, and say politics and criteria, 2 things we don't talk about. However, there is this like slightly stagnant market, even though nothing's going to particularly change massively when the election happens. Do you feel like there's a bit of a waiting game at the moment for no real reason? Like it's a psychological waiting game as opposed to anything massively different happening?
Yeah, massively. I know I speak to the builders on a weekly basis. I know all of them. Sales were doing this April, May, and we were getting really steady. And then we got the announcement, and then we either plateaued or dropped off. So I absolutely think people are waiting for some big announcement in the general election that I don't think is going to happen. I also think that I think in terms of the market plateauing, and in terms of you asked me before about maybe what I see happening. I honestly think, and I said this the other week as well, we've got to sort out the planning issues. We're not going to build more houses. We're not going to make the market move. We've got so much innovation from lenders actually already available on the market. They're really, really trying their best to support something. But at the moment, we just don't have enough land. We don't have enough sites. We've never had as few sites. We've got more builders now than we've ever had, but we've never had as few sites as we currently have.
Is there something to be said for if someone does get in that the planning's going to shift quite quickly? Is this old wives' tale of, or is it? Do you think it's going to happen that things are just going to have to shift quicker? We need houses built. We've got a lack of houses and we've got the land to do it. We just need to get the planning through.
I really hope that the election promises and the manifestos and things, I really hope that actually whoever gets in, they commit to the reforms and the changes that they're hoping to make, and I hope they do push those through quickly, because I actually do think that we are actually in a crisis at the moment in terms of housing. Do I think that manifestos and election pledges come true that often? No. But let's be optimistic.
No. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's all we can be, right? We can only plan for what they're going to say. We can only plan on it being a more positive market.
Yeah. And I also think, from a quite a specialist bit, is obviously Barrett Redrow emerging at the moment. And so because of that, they've actually got, you imagine they've got the 2 big land banks. So there's been a freeze before, obviously, and if it was announced, on them buying land and developing, and then the land is still tied up while they go through and work out, this is my synopsis of the situation. Right, we've got 2 sites.
Is it like a monopolies type thing where they're just too big?
Sorry, what do you mean? Say again.
Oh, so was it like when the merger? Is that why it's been a pause? If you look in layman's terms, is it just because they're too big? Like is it being investigated that they've got too big a chunk of the market, or?
Not that I've heard. I think it's just paused because they've got so many offices next to each other. They've got so many bits of land next to each other and stuff. And so everything at the moment is just held while my understanding is internally they're sort of going, right, we're going to keep that one, we'll sell that one, we'll keep that one, right, we like them, we don't like them. And you're trying to merge two massive companies, it's such a big job. So that's the other thing actually at the moment, a lot of the biggest builder in the UK has slowed down, even though they've got the land and it's ready, because they're sorting out, buying another huge company.
Their internal stuff.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll go through a little bit quicker.
Good. Do you genuinely see the market moving relatively quicker after are you planning for that? Are you planning for the market to kind of to speed up? Do you see there's a glimmer of hope? Give us some hope from the new build.
I absolutely think there is. I think we're going to see a change in the type of houses we're building, which we've already seen since the end of Help to Buy, but I think we're going to see a big push on that. I think that we're also going to see a really big shift in the model. So if you look at Vistry, for example, they've already changed their model. So the majority of their houses now are sold to shared ownership companies, that kind of thing. So sort of like social housing and things. And that model for them actually has really worked. So they've sort of set almost record profits this year, despite a really, really tough industry, because they're catering to a market to more affordable housing. And I think that's what we see. I think shared ownership is going to be the next big thing. I mean, I'm biased because I'm on the Shared Ownership Council, but I think that's for me is where I see it. I see the industry going. I see us moving more and more until if we can actually get enough houses built, actually we can start seeing the price of houses drop. We're never going to do it. I think the only way forward is with shared ownership. Nice.
And you say you're on the Shared Ownership Council. So you have a kind of an inside scoop on that market.
On the working group. Yeah. So they're trying to form at the moment. The idea is obviously we've had the New Homes Ombudsman launch last year, the year before, and this is the idea is that there'll be a shared ownership council which will set some standards and some rules for an industry and sort of level it off across in terms of criteria and things, because at the moment that nobody really knows where to complain depending on what it is, and there's no real guidance. So it's out for consultation at the moment actually. So if any of your listeners have done any shared ownership, have bought any shared ownership, or in any way involved, then we are very much looking for people's feedback on the draft code, so it would be appreciated.
Interesting. Is there any, we'll add that all on the social side of things. I'm assuming that involves the brokers as well, right? Because obviously most people listen to this are mortgage brokers. 100%. So if they've been involved in the shared ownership thing, so if they're seeing trends, interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And any of their clients as well. So if they've got any clients that have bought shared ownership, they need good and bad experiences, and also to make sure that the code actually covers what consumers need. Yeah.
Lovely. Good. So we've talked about the market, we've talked about Acumen. I'd like to go back to you if that's all right, because obviously I'm intrigued by 28, 29, never having managed, have gone into that. I mean, I'd have to ask your bosses what they saw in you, but in your opinion, what was it that kind of separated you to go into that level of leadership, having not done it before? What is it do you think they saw? You have to blow your own trumpet now, so it's a bit harder.
I know it is hard, isn't it? I think that I probably very unjustifiably had a very strong self-confidence. I thought I believed in myself a lot. I think that's all it was. I think really probably it was arrogance, if I'm being 100% honest. And I think I was arrogant to walk in.
Self-belief isn't arrogance. It's because you've done it. I don't think you can say it's a. There's nothing wrong with being ego-driven as well, right? I think that's what all leaders are. Relatively, I think it's a trait of leaders. I see it all the time. Yeah,
but I think I'd come from a corporate, so I think even just things that seemed really simple to me that just weren't being done. So I think I actually did. I had that confidence of youth, shall we call it, whereas I probably would handle a lot of it differently. It was such a learning curve, and I made so many mistakes. I mean, I'm still making mistakes now. We all are, aren't we? But I think it was. I think what they saw in me was someone who actually wasn't really afraid to upset people, to the point of probably almost being a little bit bullish, but really was just like, I don't understand. And if you set me a target, I'm just one of those people who I'm getting there, I'm hitting that target, and you're coming with me or you're being left behind, so let's go. So I think that was probably it.
Is that how you consider yourself quite a bullish manager? I think people are kind of on board with it or they're not with that side of things, because I'm the opposite. I find it really hard. I find confrontation very difficult. So it's a learning for me, that side of things.
100%. I think the older I've got, the more I've mellowed. And actually, I've now got to the point where I've got a team, because I went through a period of probably 3 or 4 years where staff were moving on to different teams, and I was recruiting my own team in, and I was really encouraged to do that, and I built my own team, and I absolutely think the world of them, and I'm really, really happy. I've got a really good, safe team that I trust implicitly. So actually my management style's completely changed, because I now have a team that I know as individuals. I understand all their personal circumstances. I manage them all very differently. I motivate them all very differently, and they've come and grown with me on that journey. So even though, you know, there's hybrid working in place and they might not see each other all the time and all that sort of stuff, actually, like, we're all really working towards one goal, and we're such a strong team, and they all help each other out and work together so brilliantly. I don't need to manage in the way that I did when I went into that job, and people had been there for 15 years turning around to me and saying, I'm not doing what you're doing.
There was no sales management in there at all before, so it's a completely different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Exactly. Whereas the team I've got now are just brilliant. They're just a really, really good group of guys. So I manage.
But you've built that, right? That's something that you've had to build over time. And I'm the same. Like, I'm really blessed with my team. I don't really have to manage. But then there is that other side of things that, like you say, skill shortage-wise, we do have to look at that academy side of things. I'm blessed being surrounded by senior consultants all the time. So it's made my life easier. But I know there is a outside of my comfort zone that I'm going to have to move into, which is the training academy and moving people up the ladder that maybe are a generation that I haven't worked with before. I don't know if you're finding that yet, just in regards to kind of the newer brokers, very, very different in regards to motivation.
Yeah, very, very different. We're trying to recruit at the moment, and we actually do internally. We have an academy, only a small one, nothing like some of the other guys. But so we bring in someone through the ranks at the moment, and they're a little bit older, and actually they're amazing. But externally trying to recruit, I am having a nightmare, because, like you said, new build is bread and butter, but it's 7 days a week. It's hard. It's hours. It's, you know, you've actually got to want to earn a bit of money, and you've got to be prepared to put in a little bit of graft to earn. There's a lot of money to earn. You know, an awful lot.
You know what I think personally on the new build side, and we've got lots of successful new build clients. The issue is that people have had it easy for so long, so new build wasn't appealing, because actually having to do the extra hours and having to deal with contractors and that kind of thing didn't appeal to people. But people aren't smashing it in resi stuff now. You know what I mean? You're either going into complex or you're getting into a niche, because those vanilla mortgages are gone. So I think it is slightly more appealing now than it was when mortgages were easy. I think everyone was writing business and no one's really had to sell for a while. So like I said, it wasn't as appealing, but I think that'll change, hopefully. I think people will see the benefit of, you get paid for what you put in. New build is one of those things, isn't it? That the harder you work, the more money you make. It's not a massive difference in it, you know?
It's so rare that people get that, though. Like, I'm really struggling at the moment trying to recruit, because you might have to do some site events at a weekend, and actually people don't really want to give up their Saturdays. And I get that, but also as someone who worked in an estate agent, you know, I spent most of my 20s working 6 days a week, and I'm not saying that was right, and I'm not saying that we should be doing that, but there's got to be a middle ground, and I feel like that's what I'm struggling to find at the moment personally, is somebody who actually, the number of people I interview and they tell me what they want, they tell me, you know, their expectations for the role, and I find that very new, and I'm trying to adjust to that, I suppose.
It's very much give and take. I think it is give and take. I do think you have to sell the role. I do appreciate that people have to find out what it is for them. But you are absolutely right. I'm speaking to people now, and I'm going to sound like an old man, but it is very much about what can you do for me, and how are my needs looked after. And actually, like I was trying to explain to someone the other day, like, it's not even me as the business. The business is this like entity that we all work for, that we do the best we possibly can for, and it pays us really well if we do that. So for you to talk about what the business does for you, you haven't done anything for that yet. You haven't done anything for the business for it to warrant caring yet. It sounds, like I said, but I sound a bit old school, but I struggle with that too. I struggle with the fact, like, everyone that works here at the moment is super motivated, but our average age is sort of late 30s. So we do need to start looking at the next thing. And I've just recently done a seminar on it, and it's not changing, right? We're the dinosaurs, so we have to work out how we motivate these people to still do the work that we need to be done, because it's not pounds and pence anymore. So it's really, really, I don't envy anyone that's in our kind of position where we're trying to change a job role that's always been very money motivated to something that's very different, because people talk a lot more about work-life balance and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I was chatting to somebody who works for not in finance, but works for the co-op the other day about this exact thing. And she is actually one of the younger generation. I suppose she's late 20s, and she was saying that she thinks a lot of it. She thinks there's two things which I hadn't really thought about. She said obviously COVID's had a massive impact, and the hybrid and the whole mental health movement and all that, which is fabulous. But she said the other thing that she...
Yeah, but do you not think that... I think there's a link between the mental health crisis that we've got at the moment and everyone working from their house. I think there's a direct link, and we're talking about it's because of the pressure of work. It's the anxiety of living in your cave. We used to put people in cells like that if they'd done something wrong. 100%. Now everyone's sort of sat there thinking, oh, this is just how we work.
No, absolutely. And then the other thing, which I hadn't thought about, that she said, which I thought was really true, is the people we're seeing coming through now through the job market, we're seeing the first generation of people who were gentle parented. And I actually sat there and thought, actually, do you know what, that's really interesting, because we're seeing the first generation of people whose parents didn't shout at them and they didn't get a smack across the bottom if they were naughty or whatever it might have been, or told to behave and get to their room and all that stuff. We're seeing these parents who actually validated their feelings and all that kind of stuff. And actually, I think how that's going to translate into the workplace, where unfortunately maybe not everyone's going to be as gentle in their parenting of you or their managing of you, and unfortunately maybe...
Well, you're not their parent. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not their parent at the end of the day. So it's very difficult for them to. But they look at it in that way. I mean, I'll start going to a bit of therapy about it. We recently got rid of someone here, and he said all the right things at the beginning, and it's the same thing when he came to me about emotionally supporting him. And I thought that we emotionally support people here massively in regards to when they're going through genuine issues and stuff. It's there's huge things that have happened here that we've had to look after people and done whatever we've needed to. But you've been here a couple of weeks. I'm not really sure how else I'm supposed to emotionally support you. I really want you to do well. I really want to, but everyone needs to be managed, and if it's so tricky. I think it's very poignant for us at the moment, because we're desperately trying to move on and to understand the next generation, but also I don't get it. I don't get some of the stuff. I've got to learn. Yeah. I've got to be better as a manager as well.
I think that's so true. And also that's interesting, because some of the stuff that the lenders now are trying to do to add extra value actually is a lot around DE&I, because obviously we've got the FCA consultation, haven't we, this year. It's going to really focus on diversity, equity and inclusion, and so actually learning from some of the bigger providers, and again bringing it back to it for some of the stuff I know they're going to try and bring in and stuff and help us learn about, is all around that. So actually it's really interesting to learn, because we don't know, like I said, I never had a management course, I never did anything. I'm learning on the job. I think most of us who own small to medium sized businesses are exactly the same. We've kind of started off as a one-man band and we've done well, and actually it's then we do need that training, and we're not the younger generation. If we don't have people in our lives of that age, actually we do need to know how to manage these people and get the best from them, because we don't want to exclude them. We want a younger industry we want people that are going to appeal to people we're going to sell more to, don't we? So
well, that's the other side of things as well in regards to the communication. Communication is very different now. And we kind of no, I do everything, never send an email, always pick up the phone if you can't be face to face. But actually, we were talking about the other day, is we are going to be selling to very soon people that don't want to be sold to like that. So we are going to have to adjust a little bit. As much as I'm trying to teach them how the communication is key, because that's how I build relationships. That might not be how they build relationships. So our business might be very antiquated in a very short space of time, because our customers might not want that.
Yeah, I mean we're starting a TikTok channel next week, just because we've looked into it and we've realised the number of first-time buyers who are getting financial advice. I know they're not supposed to, but they are getting their initial financial advice or ideas.
Yeah. Pseudo advice.
So we need to be in that market. We're not going to be giving advice on there, obviously, just to clarify. But we are.
Well, I've got a friend of mine in the industry. He supports 8 brokers on leads from TikTok, and everyone took the piss out of him when he started.
God, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, it's incredible, because that's where the people are listening to it, and their kids are listening to it, and they're giving it to their parents to say, oh, this fella knows about mortgages. So it's a viable market now. We can't kind of just think but that's the whole thing, educating ourselves as well, isn't it? Making sure that we're relevant to our customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Making me think a lot now. Feels like I'll go away and do a bit of learning.
I'll see you on TikTok next week.
I'm not quite there yet. So what else? What just in regards to that, I know we mentioned the TikTok side of things as well, because like I said, we've all, especially with your business as well, like it's been going 30 years, so you do have to kind of move with the times. What else do you think, particularly older businesses, but any businesses have to think about over the next few years as to how we sell and how the market's different?
Mm-hmm. So we just before COVID, we actually had a massive rebrand. So that was one of the things that when I came, the website had been done, the logo had been done, it had been there for 10, 15 years and hadn't been touched since. And so we had a big rebrand, and then we kind of left it over COVID, if I'm honest. We sort of had all these grand plans and then, you know, left it in where it was. And we've had a real nightmare trying to find someone who understands our industry, who's in marketing, who actually gets what our brand is and what we're trying to do. And you know, it's quite a niche area really, like a mortgage marketing person. So we've ended up basically having freelancers come in and do bits, and then we manage that internally. So the way that we do it is we have social media person who gets our industry, she's brilliant, and she does all of our creative content. Then we've got a PPC and SEO team, and we're really pushing that and trying to grow that. And then also it's things like 2-3 years ago, we talked earlier about, before we started, about me being the face, if you like, of Acumen. We didn't have a face of Acumen because we didn't need one. And actually, trying to convince the guys who own my company, or our company, to actually go put the head above the parapet, and actually, if we did a bit of social media, the FCA weren't going to come and storm through the doors, and actually it was okay to go on podcasts, and it's okay to be seen and to do a bit and be on video and stuff, and actually we're not going to get shot. That's been really difficult for them, I think. They are so worried about us saying or doing.
Which also is understandable as well, because you don't know what you don't know. Like I knew one way to recruit before. Now, you know, all of our stuff is inbound due to the fact that because of our presence in the market. But I could have been very closed off to that 3 or 4 years ago and said, no, I know how to do it. 100 phone calls a day, and that's how you make a recruitment company. So I do get that. It's tough. It's tough when you've been doing something for a long time and you've been good at the way it's been done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just
obviously it's helped them. It's helped them that you've come in. Sorry, I've interrupted again. It's helped them that you've come in with the fresh eyes again. Like we kind of reverted back to the beginning, that you've come into the business and had a look at it, and but kudos to them for actually taking that kind of thing on board.
Massively.
Because I've seen 30-year-old businesses go pop because they don't change.
Yeah. I feel very, very privileged to work somewhere where I'm trusted so much. I think it's very rare, and I'm very, very lucky that I have the autonomy that I have. You know, really lucky. I am at a point now where I would like to get more fresh eyes in. I feel like I'm not stagnating by any stretch. I'm doing my best, but it's been 5-6 years now.
Getting old.
Why don't we get someone else to come in and have a little look as well and see what else has changed that I've missed since I left corporate? You know, I think that would be a nice next step.
Yeah. Again, I think it's that younger generation thing again. If you can get those in, you know, and get the fresh. It's the ED&I thing, isn't it? It's not just about you know, it is relevant to ages and that kind of thing. There's different people in, different kind of understandings, different way you look at it. Not that hive thinking of middle-aged men that most of financial services has. The issue of is that, you know, it's kind of hive thinking.
I need Gen Z in the office, don't I? You know, that's the only way I'm going to be able to sell it.
Just getting them in.
Like we said, we don't get their mindset, so we need them.
Yeah, that's so true. Gemma, I appreciate your time. I said it would be half an hour, and as always, I've gone over. But if anyone wants to get hold of you or wants to get hold of anyone at Acumen, whether that be working with you or generally got any questions, obviously all your socials will be on our socials, but what's the best way to get hold of you?
Ring my mobile number, or drop me an email or a LinkedIn message. All of those are absolutely fine to get hold of me. So it's gemma.perry@acumen-mortgages.co.uk. But yeah, and also if anybody...
Don't put your mobile number on there because it says on Spotify.
I'm not going to. No. If anybody is actually looking for a job as a mortgage advisor in the new build world, Midlands based, please also get in touch.
Good stuff. As I said, I really appreciate your time. It was really interesting to get a take on, number one, the new build market. We haven't had many people on discussing that specifically. And number two, speaking to businesses where you've never made redundancies, I think is a really interesting one for business leaders to take heed of. And I'm saying this as a recruiter. I benefit from people getting rid of people too quickly. However, it is an awful business model. You should really concentrate on retention. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Gemma. And thank you to everyone listening and watching.
Yeah. Have a good day. Bye.
Cheers, Gemma. Bye.